Run me through the midfield. Bruno Guimarães.
How we've got him, I've got no idea.
I think he's one of the top 10 all-around midfielders in the world, right?
It throws back to me when Kevin Keegan was the manager and he was signing people like Tino Asprilla, and you get people like Ginola through the door, and you get this superstar player that's just got stardust. And honestly, Gab, we talk about the fans; they absolutely adore him. My brother was sending me messages.
I knew he was going to go back to the fans.
Gab, I can show you on my phone. My brother's sending me messages from inside Tottenham yesterday, singing Bruno songs. They adore him. Okay. And as a player, I mean, how we've got him, I'll never know.
The guys with him, on paper, Bruno Guimares was a star in Ligue 1. He's a Brazilian international. The guys with him, frankly, you don't get excited. I don't get excited when I hear the names like Longstaff, whichever one of the two it is.
But again,
or
proven players. Willock, Murphy, Joe Linton.
Right. So, did they get better under Howe?
Yes.
And how good are they? Or have they hit their ceiling? Can they get even better than this?
I mean, they've probably hit the ceiling if you want to try and stick a label on it, because they're playing out of their skins and Newcastle sitting in fourth. Individually, you can always improve. But it's again, you can play under managers, Gab, where you get so much more from a manager when a manager loves you and a manager trains you right and a manager treats you right as well. And I think that's what I'm seeing. I don't know for a fact what Eddie Howe is like as a coach. I've worked with him once or twice in the media, and he's one of these guys where you'd love to play for him, because I can imagine he's very, very positive.
Yeah, I think some people...
if you had a bad game, he wouldn't be too down on you. I wouldn't have thought.
I think some people click with him. Some people don't.
That's life as a
manager.
Lot
of it is... I mean, certainly at Bournemouth, he was very big in giving players instructions so that things would come natural to them.
Yeah.
And almost wouldn't think. Like, when you receive the ball in a certain area, you know that this guy's already making a run there and whatever.
Yeah.
So you almost kind of gain you win yourself, a split second where you don't have to think or look.
Yeah.
Because you know he's going to do that, and he's very good at building that trust. Almiron is another one who... It's funny, though, because when I look on paper, look at the way this team's built, and obviously we haven't mentioned Alan Saint-Maximin, who's injured right now, who's in the mix, who maybe in terms of technical ability may be the most skillful guy at the club, right?
And he's got it all on to get back in the side, because he was a shoo-in a year ago, wasn't he? It was like, pick Saint-Maximin.
Well, presumably when he's back, he's straight back into the side.
I don't think so.
It's interesting.
Even though how good he is.
He doesn't seem to be an Eddie Howe type player in the sense that, the guy who's totally unpredictable and goes off and kind of does his own thing, right? Yeah. You would presumably prefer somebody like...
See, that's where I see, I think, the effect of Eddie Howe, what he's actually doing to Saint-Maximin. He's saying to you, we can't carry you anymore. You can play like you did against Man City and rip Man City apart St James's Park. But when we really need you, you can't just be this maverick who stands up the pitch and we go down to, we're a man less and we're carrying a passenger. So again, I think it's a message where he's saying to the player, look, you've got to do the other side of it. That's why I think he's got it on to get back in the side, how talented he is.
Almiron is another one. I think I was shocked that it's already 5 years that he's been there. Obviously, he was a massive star in MLS. He's a very athletic player, very quick player. Also gives you work defensively. I did feel like he kind of never went to the level.
No.
And then, of course, yesterday he scores that.
I don't think he was trusted, Gab. I think people looked at Almiron and thought, you know what? He's a head down. He'll run as fast as he can. He'll try hard. And that's about it. But no one really trusted him until Eddie Howe to actually look at the ability that he's got. I mean, I watched him against Tottenham yesterday. He was phenomenal. He ripped Longley apart, Sessegnon on that side. So again, it's another factor what Eddie Howe's done to a player. I mean, lovely little stat when Jack Grealish ripped him in the summer when he was singing. He's now scored more goals in Jack Grealish's career at City. Almiron. It's an amazing stat.
Trolling Jack Grealish now, are we?
Absolutely.
All right, Callum Wilson, I think he's a very technically gifted center forward. I think without those horrendous injuries that he suffered at different times would have worked out. I wonder, again, and here we get into transfers and spending, right? From the club's perspective, and I say this in the nicest possible way, but you've got Wilson there. One of the first guys Eddie Howe signed when he took over was we brought in Chris Wood, different profile of center forward.
Just to keep you up.
But then in the summer, you go and you bring in Isak. Mm-hmm. If I'm Callum Wilson at that stage, I'm thinking, all right, this guy doesn't really trust me, right? Because you've bet the house on this guy who's younger than me.
Yeah.
Chris Wood is still hanging around. You know, when he came in, he signed Chris Wood. He's only saying, oh, Callum will keep us up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, he responds with a tremendous performance like this.
Yeah.
So is that one of the challenges? Sometimes you use competition for motivation rather than saying, screw this.
Oh, well, if you're a player, Gab, you have to. I can remember Walter Smith pull him in the office at Everton. And he got me in. He went, just to let you know, you can leave. And I went, why? And he went, I've signed John Collins. I've signed Olivier Dacour. He went, you're not going to play. And I looked at him and I went, I'm better than them two. And he went, what? And I went, I'm better than John Collins. I'm better than Olivier Dacour. And I walked out the room not knowing that day because I backed myself. I could have quite easily went, okay, Gaffer, I'll go. I didn't. I stayed because I backed myself. And Archie Knox, his number 2, told me months and months later he loved that response. And it took me about 2 or 3, 4 weeks to get back in the side. He ended up playing the 3 and played all 3 of us. You've got to back yourself as a player. You can't just quit.
I think a lot of players also say, like, the club are heavily invested in them. And this gets me to Eddie Howe and transfers, because I think when he was at Bournemouth, if you go back and you actually look at them, and obviously they got so much praise because he kept the same back 4 from League 2 and he stayed at top flight forever. And when he did throw a lot of money at a player, I'm thinking of when he signed Jermaine Defoe to that insane contract to keep him up.
He took Solanke from Liverpool, Jordan Ibe.
Jordan Ibe, I think, was one of the big screw-ups. Solanke, more of a calculated risk, but of course one that I guess it's kind of working out now years later. I wonder if this is something of the club saying, you know what, do we trust Eddie Howe? And we said, it's not Eddie Howe with the money. I hate when people say that, because obviously there's a director of football there who really knows what he's doing. But if the club's attitude is more like, let's not create a problem for Eddie Howe by bringing in somebody super high profile who we really should build a team around because he's going to make us better. But that's going to take a process. Isn't it?
That's the fascination. In the January window, if Newcastle are sitting in 4th or 5th, what type of player they go for?
I think they're going to be super disciplined, and I think they're only going to go for guys. They're still going to go for the small steps because, and I've said this before, I think they're actually trying to run a business there. Yeah. They don't want to emulate what Man City, what Paris Saint-Germain did early on, saying like, let's go all guns blazing.
And always the subject that blows my mind is financial fair play. Blows my mind.
Why?
Well, I just don't understand it. Because Newcastle are saying we've got to respect and live by the laws of financial fair play. But Chelsea can spend $250 million in the summer window. No.
It's funny. I
don't understand it.
It's funny.
And then Barca are doing what Barca are doing. It's like, financial what? Financial fair play?
It's really funny because some tall former Premier League midfielders seem to have an interest in financial fair play. Others, like Craig Burley, get angry when you bring it up.
I hate it because no one understands it.
Okay, so I'll have a long explainer coming up soon, but the long and short of it is, as far as the...
No, when I say I don't understand it, I understand it. I don't understand how people get around it. That's what I mean.
Right. Well, basically, we haven't had it for the last couple of years because of COVID. In Newcastle's case, as far as Europeans, financial fair play doesn't apply because they're not in Europe. So they're going to look at it differently when they do qualify for Europe, if they qualify for Europe. Barcelona's whole thing is predicated. Barcelona sold off big chunks of their club, right? So they have big amounts of revenue coming in. That's how they're able to do it this year, anyway. What's the other one you mentioned? Chelsea,
$250 million in the summer.
Chelsea, I don't get.
Just $250 million.
No, and they spent a lot before. Chelsea, I'm not sure what they're planning. On the surface, unless there's something we don't know, they could have an issue. Also, remember that this season is the last season under the old financial fair play system. We'll be getting a new one in.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.